The world runs on one key assumption. When things go wrong, people rush to the dollar. Why? Because for decades, the US dollar has served not just as money, but as global power. When you hold dollars, you're holding more than cash. You're holding influence, leverage, and sometimes even a geopolitical weapon. In this video, we'll peel back the layers of this weaponized currency, how the dollar came to dominate, how it is used as a tool of global policy, and what that means for you. Stay with me, because what you hear here isn't just theory, it's the hidden engine behind trade wars, sanctions, and economic crises. The rise of the dollar, birth of a global anchor. After World War II, the global financial system was reshaped, and the dollar emerged as the center. The Bretton Woods Conference in 1944 tied many currencies to the dollar, which was convertible into gold. The United States held the world's largest economy, dominated global trade, and built financial markets unmatched in size and stability. Because of its strength, the dollar became the natural safe haven, the currency that nations held in reserves, banks used in clearing, and companies used in contracts. Today, the dollar still makes up more than half of global foreign reserves. That dominance gave the US what economists call an exorbitant privilege, the ability to borrow cheaply, run large deficits, and influence global affairs simply by issuing dollars. How the dollar became a weapon. If you control the key currency of the world, you don't need tanks. You need clearing systems and banking networks. The US discovered this power after the Cold War, refining its use of financial sanctions, freezing assets, and controlling international payments. Global trade settlement runs through dollar-based systems and US jurisdiction. When you cut off access to dollar clearing, you effectively cut off access to the global economy. That's why the dollar isn't just money, it's leverage. It's a weapon. But weapons can be dangerous, especially when overused. The hidden costs of dominance. Dominance sounds great until you see the other side of the coin. When the dollar is the world's anchor, the US economy carries risks others don't. Large deficits, massive national debt, and the need to maintain global confidence become constant pressures. The fact that the US can issue dollars at will reduces immediate pressure, but it also creates vulnerabilities, inflation risk, currency devaluation, and loss of trust. So while the dollar remains powerful, that power comes at a price, and the price could become steeper. The global ripple effect, how individuals and nations feel it. You might think, this is a game for big nations. What does it have to do with me? A lot, because the dollar touches everything, from the price of your smartphone to the cost of oil, to the interest rate on your mortgage. When the dollar strengthens, US imports get cheaper, and investors flock into American assets. But when it strengthens too much, it hurts US exporters and crushes emerging markets with dollar debt. When the US uses the dollar as a weapon, by sanctioning a country, for example, that country may lose access to trade, its assets may freeze, and its currency may collapse. The dollar's power isn't just about the US, it's about how global finance works. The pushback, de-dollarization, and emerging threats. No empire lasts forever, and the dollar's empire is facing cracks. Countries are increasingly looking for alternatives, using local currencies, building regional payment systems, and holding less US debt. Parts of the world are accelerating de-dollarization, reducing reliance on the dollar to avoid being vulnerable to US pressure. And although the dollar still dominates, its share in global reserves and trade invoicing is slowly declining. The problem is, there's no single rival yet with the same reach, but that might change. Why the future holds uncertainty. The dollar may still reign, but the conditions that supported it are shifting. US growth is slowing, deficits are soaring, and new technologies are rewriting how global payments work. Investors have started reducing holdings of dollar-based assets as they anticipate policy changes and inflation risks. Meanwhile, the rise of digital currencies and blockchain networks could weaken the monopoly of traditional dollar systems. In short, the dollar's future isn't guaranteed, and if trust falters, its dominance could unravel faster than anyone expects. What it means for you. So what does all this mean for ordinary people? First, understand that your money doesn't exist in isolation. When you borrow, save, or invest, you're part of a global system where the dollar plays a major role. Second, diversification matters more than ever. Holding assets in different currencies or exposure to non-US markets can help protect your wealth. Third, pay attention to policy, not just markets. Decisions about trade, sanctions, or interest rates can ripple through your finances faster than you think, because power, behind the scenes, always finds its way to the surface. The digital challenge. Can technology replace the dollar? For the first time in history, the dollar isn't just challenged by other nations. It's being challenged by technology itself. Central banks are developing their own digital currencies, while private companies are building crypto-based payment networks that operate outside traditional banking systems. These systems promise faster, cheaper, borderless transactions, and they don't need to rely on SWIFT, the FED, or any dollar-based intermediaries. If they succeed, the monopoly of the dollar could weaken, because when people and institutions can move value globally without touching the dollar, the US loses part of its financial control. Digital finance could become the next battlefield, not fought with sanctions or tariffs, but with code, networks, and data. The geopolitical front. When money becomes a battlefield. Money and power have always been linked, but now they're indistinguishable. The US uses its dollar network to apply pressure, freezing assets, cutting nations from trade, or limiting investment access. In response, other countries are building alliances to protect themselves. We're already seeing regional blocs using new payment systems. BRICS, developing a shared settlement currency, China promoting digital yuan trade, and Gulf nations pricing oil in non-dollar currencies. This quiet financial war isn't just about economics. It's about control, sovereignty, and independence from US dominance. The question now isn't whether the dollar will lose power, but how fast the rest of the world can build something strong enough to rival it. The dollar's gamble. The US dollar is the most powerful financial tool the world has ever seen, a weaponized currency built on decades of dominance, global trust, and political influence. But like any weapon, its strength depends on credibility and restraint. The US still holds the keys: deep financial markets, widespread adoption, and global dependence. Yet those foundations are shifting, with rising competition, growing debt, and emerging digital alternatives. In the end, the dollar's power is only as strong as the world's confidence in it. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. And let me know in the comments, do you think the dollar's dominance will last? Or are we witnessing the start of a global shift? This is The Economic Mind. Clarity over chaos.